There's a strange moment that happens in almost every city on Earth. A man steps out of a luxury car wearing a $10 t-shirt. At the exact same traffic light, another man climbs off a financed motorcycle wearing a designer logo stretched across his chest like a billboard. One of them looks rich. The other one is rich. And the difference between those two people is usually invisible, because wealth is rarely destroyed by one catastrophic decision. It disappears quietly, purchase by purchase, monthly payment by monthly payment, tiny habits that feel harmless in isolation but become financial gravity over time. That's the uncomfortable part. Most people think rich people buy better things. In reality, wealthy people often buy fewer things, less flashy things, sometimes even cheaper things. Not because they're smarter, not because they're morally superior, but because they understand something most consumers are trained to ignore. Every dollar has a job. And some purchases quietly sabotage the future version of you. Right now, entire industries survive by convincing ordinary people to spend like millionaires, while actual millionaires spend like accountants. And once you notice the pattern, it becomes impossible to unsee, because many of the products sold as success are actually designed for people who are still chasing it, not people who already have it. So let's talk about the 10 things poor people consistently buy that rich people often avoid, not out of snobbery, out of math. The first one starts before most people even get their first paycheck. Brand new cars. This might be the most expensive social performance on Earth. A brand new car loses value almost immediately. Sometimes thousands of dollars vanish before the vehicle even leaves the dealership parking lot. But that's not the real cost. The real cost is the monthly payment. Because once someone normalizes paying $600, $700, sometimes $1,000 every month for transportation, they quietly reduce their ability to build assets for years. And the irony is brutal. Many wealthy people could buy almost any car they want in cash, but instead, they drive older SUVs, reliable sedans, cars with scratched bumpers and zero emotional drama attached to them. Meanwhile, people earning ordinary salaries finance luxury vehicles because modern consumer culture has transformed cars into public identity statement. The car isn't transportation anymore. It's evidence. Evidence that you're successful. Evidence that you're progressing. Evidence that your life is moving forward. And banks love this psychology because a 72-month auto loan turns emotional insecurity into predictable cash flow. That's why parking lots outside middle-income apartment complexes are often filled with luxury badges. BMW, Mercedes, Audi. Assets falling in value every month. Owned by people whose savings accounts are nearly empty. Quietly, the car owns them, not the other way around. Then there's fast fashion, one of the strangest economic traps ever created. For most of human history, clothing was expensive. People repaired it, reused it, passed it down. Now entire business models depend on convincing consumers that repeating an outfit is somehow embarrassing. So people buy cheap clothes constantly, every season, every trend cycle, every social media shift. And because the items are low quality, they wear out quickly, which forces people back into stores again. It feels affordable because each purchase is small, $20 here, $40 there. But over 10 years, some people spend enough on disposable fashion to fund a house down payment. Meanwhile, wealthy people often buy fewer clothes at higher quality. Not always luxury, just durable. The economics are completely different. Poor consumers are often trapped in replacement cycles. Rich consumers buy exit routes from replacement cycles. And companies know this. That's why fast fashion brands release thousands of new products every week. Not because people need them, because insecurity has become one of the most profitable resources on Earth. Now let's talk about something even more dangerous: lottery tickets. No financial product in history has extracted more money from desperate people while advertising itself as hope. The poorer a neighborhood becomes, the more lottery sales often increase. Think about how strange that is. People with the least disposable income spend billions chasing statistical miracles because lotteries don't really sell wealth. They sell emotional escape, a fantasy where debt disappears, stress disappears, work disappears. And mathematically, it's catastrophic. The expected return is terrible. The odds are absurd. But the emotional reward system is powerful enough that people keep buying anyway. Meanwhile, wealthy people overwhelmingly prefer systems with compounding probability in their favor. Businesses, stocks, real estate, cash-flowing assets, things that grow slowly and predictably. The poor are sold instant transformation. The rich quietly accumulate gradual leverage. And modern advertising aggressively pushes the first option because it's easier to monetize desperation than patience. Then there's the subscription economy. This one is almost invisible because each payment feels harmless. $10, $15, $20. Music subscriptions, streaming subscriptions, premium apps, delivery memberships, cloud storage, gaming passes, fitness platforms. Individually, none of them feel dangerous. Together, they become permanent leaks in household cash flow. The average person now lives inside a financial ecosystem designed entirely around recurring extraction. Companies no longer want customers. They want monthly subscribers because subscriptions change psychology. People stop evaluating value once payments become automatic, and wealthy people are often surprisingly aggressive about cutting recurring costs. Not because they're cheap, because they understand permanence. A one-time expense hurts once. A recurring expense multiplies silently. That's why some rich households audit subscriptions the same way companies audit expenses, because financially intelligent people know something emotionally impulsive consumers ignore. Tiny recurring costs can quietly erase investment potential over decades. Then we arrive at oversized homes. This one gets emotional fast. People are told bigger homes mean successful lives, more square footage, more upgrades, more prestige. But larger homes create permanent expense chains. Higher taxes, higher maintenance, higher utilities, higher furnishing costs, higher insurance. One room becomes 10 invisible bills. And many people buy houses based on what banks approve, not what actually improves long-term financial stability. Banks calculate maximum debt tolerance, not peaceful living. That's a massive difference. Meanwhile, many wealthy people intentionally buy below their means, not because they lack ambition, because flexibility has value. A smaller fixed-cost lifestyle creates room for investment, opportunity, and resilience during economic downturns. A giant mortgage creates pressure, and pressure changes behavior. People stay in jobs they hate longer, take fewer risks, delay business ideas, remain trapped because the house that symbolized freedom quietly became a financial cage. Now here's where things get darker. Status electronics. Every year, consumers line up for slightly thinner phones, slightly brighter screens, slightly better cameras. A $1,000 device replaces another $1,000 device that was functioning perfectly fine 12 months earlier. And companies have mastered the art of turning minor upgrades into emotional urgency, because modern consumerism doesn't run on necessity anymore. It runs on perceived social lag, the fear that everyone else is moving forward while you remain behind. But wealthy people often treat technology like tools, not identity markers. They upgrade when utility meaningfully improves, not when marketing departments manufacture excitement. And this matters because the average household now finances electronics. Think about how absurd that sentence would sound 50 years ago. People are paying interest on phones. Entire economies now depend on consumers emotionally overvaluing temporary experiences and rapidly depreciating products, which leads directly into luxury watches, an interesting one. Because some watches are investments, but most aren't. Most are status signals purchased by people trying to simulate wealth aesthetics before building actual wealth. And the psychology behind this is ancient. Humans constantly display symbols to communicate rank. Expensive watches, jewelry, designer accessories. But wealthy people often understand a painful truth. Looking rich and being rich are frequently opposites. Because visible wealth is usually purchased at the expense of invisible wealth. The Rolex gets attention. The index fund doesn't, but one appreciates socially. The other appreciates financially. And social validation is addictive enough that millions of people repeatedly choose the first option. Then there's restaurant delivery culture. This exploded globally over the last decade. And yes, it saves time. But financially, it's astonishingly inefficient. A single meal gets marked up through delivery fees, service charges, hidden pricing increases, and tipping structure. Sometimes consumers pay double the actual food value without noticing. And because digital payments reduce spending pain, people psychologically disconnect from the real cost. Press button. Food arrives. Money becomes abstract. Meanwhile, wealthy people often spend heavily in restaurants for networking or experiences, but many are surprisingly disciplined about routine consumption. Because financially aware, people distinguish between intentional luxury and unconscious leakage. One is strategic, the other is habitual. That distinction changes entire financial future. Now let's talk about debt-funded vacations, one of the most normalized financial contradictions in modern society. People finance temporary experiences using future labor. Think about that carefully. A 5-day vacation can create 12 months of repayments, and social media amplified this dramatically. Travel stopped being personal. It became performative, proof of lifestyle, proof of freedom, proof of happiness. Meanwhile, many wealthy people travel extensively, but often after assets are already generating income. That's the key difference. The vacation isn't funded by future work. It's funded by existing cash flow. Poor consumers buy experiences first and hope stability comes later. Wealthy consumers often build stability first and let the assets finance the lifestyle afterward. And finally, the most expensive purchase of all, trying to impress other people. This one hides inside almost everything we've discussed. The car, the watch, the clothes, the phone, the vacation, the oversized apartment. Much of consumer culture is built around imagined observation. People spend money to create emotional reactions in strangers who are usually too distracted to care, and companies spend billions engineering this insecurity because it works unbelievably well. But wealthy people eventually learn something that completely changes spending behavior. Real wealth is private. It's invisible, quiet, often boring. No one sees the paid-off assets. No one applauds low debt. No one notices emergency savings. No one compliments diversified index funds at dinner parties. Because actual financial stability rarely looks cinematic. Consumer culture trains people to optimize for appearance. Wealthy people optimize for ownership. And those two goals slowly pull human beings in opposite directions over decades. That's why two people earning the same salary can end up living completely different lives 20 years later. One accumulates symbols, the other accumulates leverage. One buys things to feel rich, the other buys assets that reduce dependence. And maybe the strangest part of all, the system often rewards the illusion more visibly than the reality. The flashy spender gets attention immediately.